Close your eyes and picture that yellow light where the wind carries the desert's fine dust onto your face. Far away, the Nile's bend glints like a vein, splitting the world in two. On one side, fields laid out in green ribbons. On the other, the endless dominion of stone and sand. Now imagine walking through that dust toward a worksite at the foot of the Giza Plateau. Hundreds of fires, thousands of footprints, the dull groan of stone dragged across earth. What is being built here is not only a tomb. It is the power of a state, the architecture of belief, and a bargain made with the limits of the human body. This story will speak to you from inside history. It will go into detail like a documentary, but it will also carry the thirst that knots in a throat, the rope marks on a shoulder, and the prayers whispered at night. If I had been here, forced to work while the pyramids were rising, how would my days have flowed? What smells would I wake to? What fears would I sleep with? What hopes would I cling to? I will tell you all of it as if I am walking right beside you. If you enjoy documentary-style storytelling like this, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like the video. We need your support to keep bringing the next episodes. Now come, let's start at the banks of the Nile. Chapter 1. From the Nile to Giza. My first day. Picture me at your level, gathered on the Nile's edge in the early hours when the air is still cool. Time here is spoken in the language of the seasons, especially Akhet, the inundation. When the Nile swells, villages pause their planting and people pay taxes not with grain, but with labor. My story begins harsher than most. I'm one of those called a war captive. Still, around me are men brought from their own villages, farmers I can speak to, whose names I can learn. So what you call slave here is not a single color. Some are forced, some are compelled by obligation, some are assigned through state duty. They gather us on a muddy landing where the river smells of wet clay and reeds warming in the sun. When the water recedes, it leaves black silt behind, fertile, heavy, alive. In the distance toward Memphis, the city of administrators and power. Ahead of us, the Giza Plateau, high, dry, wind-scoured, a ridge of stone. Why are we here? Because Pharaoh Khufu, whom you know as Cheops, has begun his house of eternity. We're in the 4th dynasty, roughly the mid-26th century BCE. Stone has become the language of government. On the first march, geography asserts itself like a command. The Nile Valley's green ends abruptly, sand begins, then the chalky limestone bedrock of the plateau. As the sun climbs, the horizon trembles and distances blur. Dust clings to your throat. You squeeze your water skin, but your share is measured. Shadows are short, work days are long. The site is fenced not only by stone, but by order. There are boundaries like walls, checkpoints, shaded corners where scribes sit. Every newcomer, name, village, work group is recorded. Yes, writing is power here. How many days you worked, how many loaves you received, how many blocks your crew hauled, everything becomes a mark in clay. The reed pen in the scribe's hand is as real as the rope on your shoulder. They divide us into crews. Some crew names sound strange, almost proud. Friends of Khufu, words like that. Those names are how people cling to identity even while hauling stone. Men like me, brought by force, are usually assigned the heaviest tasks, pulling sledges, carrying water for the stonecutters, hauling fill for ramps. But notice this, the job is heavy, yes, yet the rhythm matters just as much. Deep, drum-like beats, shouted commands. The moment everyone leans in at once, alone, you collapse. Together, the stone briefly feels lighter. At evening, they lead us to the workers' settlement. It isn't a city in the way you'd imagine, but it is organized. Long barracks, communal hearths, beer jars, bread ovens. Bread and beer here aren't merely food, they're wages. Some days there are onions, garlic, dates. Meat is rarer, though I've heard cattle are slaughtered on festival days. The smell is a mixture: smoke, sweat, fermented beer, damp clay. The first night, Giza's silence surprises you. Daytime noise drains away, and the desert becomes a vast emptiness. The stone beneath you holds a coolness that seeps into your back. When you look up, the sky is so sharp it feels like an instrument. People whisper that the masters aligned the pyramid by the stars. For me, those stars say only one thing: tomorrow you will rise at the same hour again. That first day, I can tell you this: the heaviest burden here isn't the stone, it's the slowness of time. One block moves, then another, and as you climb the same incline day after day, you start to wonder where your own life is going. Still, humans are strange. Part of you dreams of escape. Part of you prays your crew won't break today. Because on this plateau, it's not only bodies that fall. When one man goes down, everyone's hope slips with him. Before dawn, they count us. Names leave the foreman's mouth and become impressions in clay beneath the scribe's hand. A workday is measured by light. Movement at first glow, a short shade break at noon heat. Another push before dusk. Limestone reddens under sun. When you touch it, your palm stings. You wrap cloth around your head, throw thicker fabric over your shoulder, not to hide the rope marks, but to keep your skin from tearing open. By the end of my first week, I start to understand the stone's journey. Some blocks come from nearby cuts on the plateau. Others arrive from across the river at Tura, whiter, finer limestone. When those come, everyone goes quiet and stares, because one day they'll sheath the pyramid's outer surface. When the sun hits that casing, it will gleam as if it makes its own light. And in that gleam, I understand something early. My name will never be spoken. Chapter 2. The Stone's Journey. Quarry, Sledge, Ramp. Now picture me at first light walking down toward the quarry. Giza's limestone bedrock is like a resource the site offers up by itself. But taking stone isn't just breaking rock and dragging it away. It is an industry. Surveyors come first. They stretch ropes, set marks. Then master cutters lay out the boundaries of each block. Men like us work behind those marks, carrying whatever the line demands. The tools look simple: copper chisels, wooden mallets, and for harder places, heavy dolerite stones to pound the surface. Copper blunts quickly, so sharpening never stops. A master heats a chisel tip, hammers it, quenches it, returns to the stone. These small cycles are the hidden pulse of something enormous. You might see the pyramid as a single wonder. I begin to see it as the sum of hundreds of thousands of tiny motions. Today my crew is on sledge duty. A sledge is a thick wooden platform. The block sits on it, lashed tight, ropes threaded through. A foreman sets the rhythm. When he shouts, "Pull!" everyone leans in at once. The stone moves with a crackling groan. Ahead, another man pours water. Yes, water. On dry sand, the sledge bites and stalls, but on dampened ground it slides. Friction drops. The rope burns less. When I first learned that, I felt almost angry. Human progress can hinge on something as basic as a handful of water. And the ramps. Everyone talks about the ramps. But the ramp itself is always changing. Sometimes it's a straight incline, sometimes a winding fill that climbs as the pyramid climbs. As stone rises, the ramp rises. As the ramp rises, it demands more rubble, more mud brick, more labor. To grow the pyramid is also to grow the road that climbs it. One day, hauling stone, I realize I'm also building the ramp. Two structures are rising at once. One permanent, one temporary. In the noon heat, even a stone shadow feels hot. At break, you dip bread into beer. The beer isn't what you imagine. Less intoxicating than nourishing, slightly sour, thick enough to quiet hunger and thirst. Beside me is a village boy named Nefer. He is here as labor tax. His voice still believes in return. When the flood season ends, I'll go home, he says. For me, home is not a date on a calendar. It is a decision owned by someone else. Two men pull the same rope, yet their fates diverge. In late afternoon, we watch a shipment arrive from the Nile. Flat-bottomed boats edge into shallow canals, heavy blocks ease toward shore. The scribes are there again, counting, noting marks, recording the day. A clerk reads numbers aloud, and inside those numbers, I hear something else. The state doesn't only move stone, it moves time, because each record is a way of saying, today is finished. There is mathematics in this work too. You see the cubit rod, a simple forearm-length standard, but fixed and authoritative. Skilled overseers speak in ratios, the Akhet, to manage slope and geometry. A millimeter's drift becomes a disaster across 100 meters. Our eyes stay on the block. Their eyes stay on invisible lines. Sometimes the crews even compete. As we pull, a man from the other crew shouts, "We're faster today." It sounds childish until you understand its strategy. If a man feels he belongs to something, if he's proud of a crew name, his shoulder lasts longer. On walls and blocks, you'll see charcoal marks, crew names, symbols. We aren't carving our names into eternity, we're writing them into dust, even if the wind wipes them away. And some days the work turns sharp. A rope snaps, a block shifts sideways, the whole site goes silent. Someone's foot is trapped, his scream is brief. The foreman roars, "Away from the sledge!" Two men drag the injured into shade. They wrap him like a weaver wraps cloth, tight bandages, a smear of herbal paste. In that moment I learn, death and injury here are processed quietly, because the site cannot stop. Every stopped minute becomes a deficiency in the Pharaoh's schedule. By night, the wind cools. From high on the ramp, you can still see the Nile's green ribbon far below. Water means life. Stone means command. I look at my palm, splits crusted over, grit work between my fingers, and I think, the stone's path is also the human path, pulled, dragged, lifted, set into place. When the day ends, the rope mark remains on my shoulder and blisters throb in my hands. But another mark settles deeper. This monument's size forces your own smallness into your face. Still, at the fire, everyone says the same sentence in different ways. One day it will be finished. Some say it for the Pharaoh's eternity. Some say it for their own suffering. I whisper it to you differently. One day we will be finished. The stone will remain. Chapter 3. The city of the Worksite. Sweat, order, and belief. After a while, you understand the pyramid is not just a structure, it has a living organism around it. We may not call it a city, but it functions like one. In the worker settlement, there are bakers, brewers, rope makers, carpenters, stone dressers, water carriers. Every role is defined. Some hands don't split like mine, because those men are craftsmen and I am muscle. You can tell the difference not by clothing, but by movement, by what their hands seem to say. Walk with me through the settlement on an ordinary day. Morning heat gathers at the ovens. Dough clings to paddles. The mouth of the kiln leaks red light. Near the beer vats is a sour, yeasty smell. Jars are marked. Which crew receives them, which day they're issued. Distribution is stricter than you'd think, because if bread and beer fail, the spirit breaks before the rope does. The foremen know this. The administrators know it better. By midday, we gather near the scribe's shade. A list is read. Which crew goes to the quarry? Which to the ramp? Which to dressing stone faces? Sometimes I listen as if it's a book of fate. You, upper level today. It sounds like promotion, but it also means danger. Up high, the wind is harsher and the footing worse. When you look down, people shrink into ants. The pyramid's enormity stops being an idea. It becomes something that settles into your knees. Up there, notice the surveyor's quiet. We shout and sweat. They speak in murmurs, stretching cords, placing marks. They watch the shadows. They count star risings. One night, I was sent away from the settlement to wait on the ramp. The overseer pointed at 2 stars and said, "Straight line." I used to think stars meant freedom. Here they are, instruments to guide stone. Belief is the unseen mortar of the sight. Before work, some men whisper prayers. Let Ma'at remain unbroken, they say. Order, balance, justice. Those words don't soften the foreman's stick, but they help men hold each other upright. Everyone knows the pyramid is a tomb. One day the pharaoh's body will come here and his spirit will climb to the sky. So we are told. For some, that is pride. For others, fear. For me, it's complicated. If these stones will make him eternal, why do my days feel so disposable? Evenings bring a second kind of fatigue, longing for home. In a corner, villagers sing in their own accents. I understand them, not because we share the same soil, but because we share the same weight. Nefer asked me once, "We pull stone here. At home, the women hold the fields. When the flood ends, I'll return. What about you?" I had no answer. My return is not tied to the river. It is tied to an owner's will. But I'll tell you the truth, even in the darkest place, humans build order. In the corner of my barrack, I hide a small stone chip. I scratch a notch into it each day, one notch, one day. The notches aren't like the scribes' records, they're my memory. As the number grows, the shape of hope changes. First you think, I'll escape. Then you think, I'll endure. Finally, you think, I'll tell. Because sometimes the only freedom is to leave what happened inside someone else's ear. At night, the settlement wears a different face. Firelight softens people. A craftsman talks about copper. Copper is like water, he says. It takes shape. Another says he listens to the stone. If you strike the right place, the stone answers. Listening to them, I understand the pyramid rises not only with brute force, but with knowledge. That knowledge can feel like a chain around my neck, and also like a human inheritance, something larger than any one ruler. There is also a rotation system. Crews, files, work in shifts across set periods, then swap out. It matches the Nile cycle. During inundation, labor swells. During planting, many villagers leave. For captives like me, the cycle is flatter. Seasons change, but chains do not. Still, this system keeps the workforce fresh. The state manages human bodies like it manages stone. Logistics, allocation, control. One evening, my eyes caught the edge of a cemetery near the settlement. Simple graves. But if you look closely, small offerings appear beside some. It hit me. Those who die here are not always erased completely. Still, I know my name will not be carved on a stele. That thought both shrinks you and sharpens you. If you expect to be forgotten, you search for other ways to be remembered, through speech, through story, through this voice I'm giving you now. So here's what I leave at the end of this chapter. Life at Giza is as hard as stone and as systematized as stonework. Suffering here isn't random, it is planned. And maybe that's why even rebellion inside a person has to learn the site's rhythm. Chapter 4. Stone remains. People pass. The last season. Years pile up. Here, the way courses of stone do. One morning, you wake and the pyramid is no longer a hill rising. It's a geometry that cuts the horizon. The ramp is longer, the site more crowded. Faces disappear, new ones arrive. Nefer's hair starts to gray. Then the flood season ends, and one day he truly leaves. As I watch him walk down the path toward the Nile, I think, some men return with the seasons. Some men are kept with the stone. In this last season, I'm assigned near the casing stones. The fine white blocks from Tura are set with care because this is the pyramid being clothed. The outer skin hides the rough core and sharpens the monument into a clean shape. Craftsmen wet the surface, rub with sand, take off imperfections. When sunlight hits it, your eyes sting from the glare. From where you stand, it looks like miracle. From where I stand, it looks like hundreds of days of stored sweat. A new phrase moves through the worksite. It's almost done. People say it with hope and with fear. Because when the work ends, the lives of those forced here are rewritten. Some are sent to another site, some back to quarries, some into service for administrators. Finished does not always mean free. Sometimes it only means next. One day, on an upper level, I watch the world below. There is a road from the valley up to the plateau, a vein carrying stone and men. Along it are temples, storehouses, workshops. The pyramid doesn't finish alone. An entire world of funerary cult is being assembled around it. Priests will bring bread, beer, incense here daily. The pharaoh's name will be spoken again and again. And I realize we didn't only stack stone. We paved the rhythm of the future. This monument gives order not only to the past, but to what comes after us. At night, the wind sounds different up on the ramp. Desert cold slips into bone. Daytime heat becomes a dream. Around the fire, men speak of home, of gods, of accidents on the site. I speak less. Two voices argue inside me. One says, "This monument crushed you." The other says, "This monument made you a witness." And sometimes, witnessing is the only meaning survival can hold. Then one morning, I see part of the ramp being dismantled. The temporary road begins to vanish. Only the pyramid's own face remains. It shakes me, because our lives are like that. We build roads that matter only while they are useful. Then someone removes the road, and only what you built remains. And what you built does not carry your name. Later, I'm called to a section where rarer stone is handled. You recognize it at once. Not the pale limestone, but a darker, harder material. Aswan stone, they say, granite hauled from far south on the Nile, a journey of days and days. Harder to carve, heavier to move, but needed for certain chambers and ceiling blocks. That day, we lay round logs under the granite and inch it forward. Logs crack, new ones are placed. The stone walks millimeter by millimeter. Patience here is as useful as any tool. Once, near the inner passages, cool air struck my face. Outside the sun burns, inside stone holds night's cold. Footsteps echo in narrow corridors, and you understand what a tomb is. Masters speak softly because mistakes here aren't repaired the way they are outside. If a block seat's wrong, an entire passage can lock forever. In that darkness, I realized the pyramid is two pyramids, the massive body you see from afar, and an inner world so precise it seems to measure even your breath. In the final weeks, the atmosphere changes. Priests appear more often. Incense threads through the wind. People whisper, "The pharaoh is aging." Some say it like hope, some like dread, because the pharaoh's death can hasten completion and also begin a new regime. And for people like us, that means the same thing it always means: uncertainty. If you stand at Giza today, centuries later, or even if you look at a photograph, you see an immense mountain of stone. I see the breaths trapped between those stones, the creak of ropes, the smell of wet sand, the foreman's shout, the scribes tapping pen, and the night sky. That's what I remember most, a human-made thing reaching for alignment with the stars. Maybe the pyramid's power isn't only in its size, but in humanity's desire to outlast its own lifetime. My ending? I can't give you a clean, certain ending, because life here can be as short as a single line in a record tablet, but I know this: I did not keep what I lived inside me. I saved it to place into someone else's ear one day, and now that ear is yours. So when you look at the pyramids, remember not only pharaohs, but the unnamed people with rope marks on their shoulders. Stone remains, people pass. But if a story remains, then a trace of the people remains too. If this story brought you even a little closer to the wind of Giza, the scent of the Nile, and the sound of that worksite, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support genuinely matters if we're going to keep making the next parts. See you in the next episode.